The Teacher's Resource Guide to the Library was designed to reinforce and complement the principles of the Early Learners Program, ELP, and is here to help you as primary school teachers. Even though it was developed for grades K through 3 because of the ELP initiative, this resource gives tools and strategies for all primary school teachers grades K through 6 to connect the school library to your teaching of subjects across the curriculum to save you time and help your students excel. We encourage you to adopt the lesson ideas in this guide that work for you and to add your own expertise, best practices, and teaching materials to this guide. Please feel free to share everything with every teacher at your school. In 2018, Hands Across the Sea sent a TRG to most primary schools in the 6 island countries that we work with. It should be available for you in your school's library, and if not, ask your principal or download your own free copy. The TRG is not meant to sit on a shelf collecting dust. It is meant to be read and used with your students. So let me show you how. The Teacher's Resource Guide is organized into 5 sections. 1, best practices. 2, library time. 3, book blurbs. 4, lesson plans, and 5, resources. I'm going to be showing you a sneak peek of each section and what you can expect to find in each. The best practices section has interviews of teachers and librarians from different islands in the Caribbean sharing their ideas of how they use the library and what has worked best for them. Let me show you some examples. Teachers like Lydia Quinn in Antigua explains what is working for her and her school through the library program. She shares ideas about the essential role of books in the reading process, how teachers can teach grammar through the use of reading books, and how teaching phonics using books is much more effective than teaching it in isolation. Let me show you a few others. Here is Melina Anselm, a librarian at Bagatelle Primary in Dominica. She shares the importance of teaching our children to love books and to read to them and with them. Melissa Hippoly is a teacher and librarian in St. Lucia, and she shares how the student librarian program at her school took a few tries to really succeed, but in the end, it was worth it. Luanda Haywood from Liberta Primary School discusses what the student librarians at her school contribute, and Charmaine Martin at Willakey's Primary in Antigua shares how she collaborates with the teachers at her school to find books from the library that help with their specific lesson plans. The idea behind the best practices section is to encourage teachers and librarians that if those in the interviews can do it, they can too. Here, Nicole Francis from St. Kitts shares about the creative things she has done in the library to get students excited about reading. And she's done some pretty crazy things like dressing up as a fish for her library theme called Fish for a Good Book. I'm going to pause now and see if there's any feedback or questions that you have. Pause the video and resume it once these questions and comments are identified. Library time is the next section in the Teacher's Resource Guide. Library time includes why incorporating library time into the timetable is so valuable, because it is teaching time. It shows how the art and craft of a read aloud to students is important and establishes skills that are within the curriculum. Several helpful tips are suggested to make read alouds fun and enjoyable for students, as well as comfortable and practical for the teachers. Teachers can use a strategy called the 5-finger rule and help students find just the right book on their own for their reading level. This section also gives suggestions for how teachers can manage their students when working in groups with easy acronyms and poster ideas that you can display in your classroom as reminders. Guidelines for working in pairs are listed as well as how to best work independently. Library time also gives guidelines for taking a class to the library, how to line up a class, how to walk in a line, and how to enter and exit the library. It details what a read aloud should look like and what a think aloud is. So students can share quickly and freely, but teachers are still in control of the class. Another unique page of this section is the what if table, which lists strategies for troubleshooting. What if my students get too noisy during group work or partner work and are off topic? I can praise the groups that are using the right behavior and remind everyone of the guidelines for working in groups. I'm going to pause again now and see if there's any feedback or questions that you have. The third section of the Teacher's Resource Guide is called Book Blurbs. It lists many, many books that Hands Across the Sea has donated over the years to the school libraries and how teachers can easily use these books in their lessons for various curriculum topics. Book blurbs show what curriculum content the book can be used for, along with its uses and quick class activity suggestions that teachers can adapt for their students' needs. Here is a page from the Grade 1 book blurbs. You can see how Fly Guy can be used for a lesson on rhyming, vocabulary building, and phonics, as well as science content, and Clifford, the big red dog, can be integrated into social studies lessons about sharing, playing fairly, and having respect. Another book blurb from Grade 2 is The Grapes of Math, a book that can be used to teach math concepts, adding, subtracting, and multiplying in word problems applicable in everyday life, as well as language skills, language arts, through poetic rhythms and rhyming words. Keep in mind that the same book can be used to teach many different subjects, and book blurbs in this section can help you with this. The fourth section of the Teacher's Resource Guide is called Lesson Plans, and this by far is the largest section. It is organized by grade level with 5 lesson plans for each grade, K through 3. The lesson plans have suggested activities that teachers can do with their students before, during, and after reading the books listed here. Let me show you a few examples. In a grade K lesson plan that corresponds to the book Should I Share My Ice Cream, you can see that the learning objectives are listed, showing how the teacher can cover listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills in this one read aloud lesson. The lesson plans also give suggestions for pre-reading activities like predicting and setting a purpose for reading and listening. Developmental activities during reading engage students while reading aloud with specific questions or activities within the story's text that can enable students to think while they read and listen. The culminating activities are post-reading and provide time for students to practice skills like responding to comprehension questions. For this grade 1 lesson plan that goes along with a book called Amazing Grace, you can see some questions to encourage students to share their reactions to the book and get a whole class discussion going. In another lesson plan about a book called Oliver and Friends, this culminating activity has an easy vocabulary foursquare that teachers could copy up onto their chalkboards and use as a graphic organizer for students to learn from. These lessons can also be adapted to students in higher grades with just some small adjustments. The suggestions given in the during reading activities for the Very Hungry Caterpillar include a KWL chart, something simple teachers can use with any book to list all the things the students already know about a topic, like caterpillars, want to know before reading, and then what they learned about caterpillars while they are reading or listening to the book. Creative ideas for how to review story elements from second grade students using the book Ada Twist Scientist are shown in this lesson plan. Not all the activities in this lesson plan have to be done with the students. Teachers can use some and leave others. This resource is for teachers so they can pick what works best for them. The goal is to encourage teachers to start using more books in their lessons. You can see how for this lesson plan about Effa and the mosquito, there are many short lists of activities that the teacher can choose from while teaching from this book. Many of the suggestions correlate directly with the teacher's curriculum, not just for language arts, but also for science and social studies, even math too. You can see in this 3rd grade lesson about the Nutmeg Princess that lots of writing prompts are given for students to practice their creative writing skills. If teachers have other great lesson plan ideas that go along with a book that is in their school library, then we encourage teachers to write it up and add it to the section for all the other teachers at their school to benefit from. The lesson plan section of the Teacher's Resource Guide is intended to be added to, and that is why it's in a 3-ring binder. I'm going to pause now and see if there's any feedback or questions you may have. The final section of the Teacher's Resource Guide is called Library Resources and is full of lists of books sorted into various categories that will help teachers choose which titles they may want to teach from. This section is meant to be used as a reference. Teachers can flip through it and scan the lists to find the best book for teaching. Here is a list of books suggested to use for shared reading. Tips for building a set of shared reading texts are also provided. Here is a list of guided reading books divided into grade K and grade 1, as well as guided reading books for grade 2 and 3. Suggestions for independent reading are listed here as well. This section also lists books sorted by subjects within the curriculum, so teachers can choose picture books that correlate with the content they are teaching in science, math, or social studies, and pair read aloud text with their curriculum content. One page I want to draw your attention to is the list of book recommendations for reluctant readers. We all have those students who just aren't interested in reading. Try a few of these titles on them. These books just might change their minds about reading. The Library Resources tab also includes a section called Literacy Activities. These are designed to make the library come alive, and teachers can use them in their classrooms to make language arts lessons more hands-on and fun, or in the library during library time. These activities are sorted by grade level and cover various literacy concepts for students to practice a myriad of skills that coincide with the curriculum taught. The Teacher's Resource Guide is meant to be used, not kept on a shelf in the library. So if you or any teacher you know wants their own copy, it's available for free download from handsacrossthesea.net.